Well, good morning. A couple of things just to kind of keep in mind as our Lenten journey unfolds for us. We're going to talk about the Stations of the Cross, but before we get there, I just want to say a word of thanks to all of you who made Valentine's for our community. I can tell you that it was a great delight for so many people. And I want you to know exactly how important that is because sometimes people don't get a lot of personal mail. And sometimes it's been a while since maybe they've heard from their grandchildren or maybe even their great-grandchildren. And it was so nice for them to be able to receive something from you. And just a reminder to them how much we do think about them and how much we want to keep them all as a part of our community. And it always is a good reminder for us, too, that as a school, we want to make sure that whoever comes after us is still going to have the same level of care and the same level of kindness that mark our lives right now. This was the first year that we sent out Valentines and the first year that we sent out poinsettias earlier this year. And I just want to thank you all for your hard work and for your creativity. And you really made a lot of people's days with the Valentines that you made. So thank you so much. And thank you, teachers, for helping coordinate that and for making all of that happen. It was a wonderful gift. As we journey in Lent, one of the things that we've always talked about is Stations of the Cross. And as you've come into church, you've gone around from station to station and you've noticed all of the different kinds of images that are there. But I want to just focus on a couple of different reasons about why we do Stations of the Cross. Where did they start? And as many of you know, I like to travel. And so I've been to a lot of different places in the world. And one of the reasons why I always like to travel is because I get to learn an awful lot about the people who live there. I love being able to discover something about them and to recognize that even though they may speak a different language than me, they may eat different foods than I eat, they may have different kinds of family experiences and life experiences, still at the same time, I always find something that's very much the same. And when we stop and we think about things that happen in history, a lot of times we want to visit places where significant things happened. Sometimes we like to visit places where great battles were fought. Sometimes we want to visit palaces where kings and queens lived. Sometimes we want to visit places where maybe our ancestors came from. Or sometimes we want to visit different places and maybe some different holy sites around the world. And one of the things that was always important for people is the chance to visit places where Jesus walked. And that was one of the reasons why in the very early parts of the life of the church, many people traveled from different parts of the world. They traveled all throughout the Roman Empire to go to Jerusalem to see the place where Jesus was crucified, to see where Mount Calvary was, to walk to Bethlehem and to see where he was born. They had a hunger and a thirst because they wanted to know Jesus just a little bit more and a little bit better. And one of the things that they started to do is they started to pray every single time they came across a place where something happened to Jesus in his lifetime. And the Stations of the Cross are really a kind of an outgrowth of that experience and of that desire to know more about Jesus and to experience his life a little bit differently. As time went on, though, it became dangerous for people to travel. As the Roman Empire fell and as it became more and more dangerous to travel, people stopped going, at least for a short period of time. And so they began to create different kinds of scenarios, different scenes or different markers so that people could still reflect upon the things that happened to Jesus in those last few days of his life. And they would travel around and they would pray as they moved from place to place. And in the early part of the Middle Ages, one of the things that became very important was outside major churches and big cathedrals, there would be gardens that were planted with places for people to walk through as they were praying and imagining for themselves that they were traveling along with Jesus from the very first moment all the way through until the very end. And the Stations of the Cross for us in the life of the church are reminders to us that even if we can't be in Jerusalem or in the Holy Land specifically during this Lenten season, and of course, now with coronavirus, we can't do a lot of international travel anyway. But just a reminder to us that our Stations of the Cross are reminders to us of real places, of real people that lived and that struggled and that watched all of the things that happened to Jesus. And there's words of Scripture that remind us of how much, in spite of all of the pain and the suffering that Jesus had, how much he still loved us and still loves us. So our journey through the Lenten season gives us the Stations of the Cross, but also reminds us of the great love that God has for us all.